Welcome to 2 a.m. Vale. This channel is home to scary stories, eerie compilations, disturbing clips, and strange content from across the internet. If you're drawn to the dark, the unsettling, and the unexplained, welcome in. Normal again. When I was 12, my family started acting strange. It was small at first. My mom would forget basic things, like where the plates were kept, even though we'd lived in the same house for years. My dad got quiet and started staying up late in the living room with all the lights off. My older brother, who used to mess with me all the time, barely even looked at me anymore. Then it got worse. Sometimes I'd walk into a room and they'd all stop talking at the exact same time. At dinner, it felt like they were all waiting for someone to say something first. Nobody laughed anymore. Nobody really acted like themselves. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. and heard voices in the kitchen. I got up and stood near the hallway so I could listen. My mom sounded upset. She said, "He notices." Then my dad said, "Just act normal. He'll stop." I remember standing there frozen, thinking they were talking about me. The next morning, everything changed. My mom was making breakfast like usual. My dad was joking around before work. My brother was back to annoying me like nothing had happened. It was like somebody flipped a switch overnight. A few days later, I brought it up to my mom. I asked her why she said I was noticing things. She looked confused and told me I must have dreamed it. My dad said the same thing. Even my brother acted like he had no idea what I was talking about. Maybe there was an explanation. Stress, money problems, something they didn't want me to know. But even now, I still think about how weird they were during those weeks, and how fast they all went back to normal, like they had agreed on it, like whatever was wrong almost slipped out, and then didn't. The backyard. My dad started going into the backyard every night around the same time. No flashlight, no phone, nothing. He'd just stand out there in the dark for 10 or 15 minutes, then come back inside like nothing happened. At first I thought maybe he was on the phone with someone. But one night I looked through the window and he was just standing there near the fence, facing the woods behind our house, not moving. The next day I asked what he was doing out there. He said he hadn't gone outside. I told him I saw him. He smiled a little and said, "You probably saw the neighbor." But our neighbor was an old woman, and this was clearly my dad. A few nights later, I looked again. This time he wasn't alone. There was someone standing on the other side of the fence. I couldn't make out who it was, but they were close enough to be talking. My dad came back in a minute later, walked past me, and asked why I was still awake. I asked who he'd been talking to. He just stared at me and said, "Nobody." He never went in the backyard at night again after that, at least not while I was watching. The woman in the road. I was driving home late one night on a dark road with woods on both sides when I slammed on my brakes. There was a woman standing in the middle of the road, barefoot, white shirt, hair hanging over her face. She wasn't trying to wave me down or ask for help. She was just standing there. I stopped a good distance away and stared at her, trying to decide what to do. Then she slowly raised her arm and pointed at my passenger seat. I looked over without even thinking. Nobody was there. But when I looked back at the road, she was closer, a lot closer. I never saw her move. I swerved around her and kept driving. I didn't even want to look, but when I checked my side mirror, she was still standing there smiling. When I got home, there were muddy footprints on the passenger floor mat. The alert. One night, my phone went off with one of those emergency alerts. I figured it was an amber alert or weather warning, but when I looked at the screen, it just said, "Do not look outside, do not approach windows, wait for further instructions." No explanation, no location, no weather warning. Just that. I thought it had to be fake or some kind of glitch, but then my mom came into my room holding her phone, and she had the same alert. A minute later, Every house on my block went dark at the exact same time. No street lights, no porch lights, nothing. Then I started hearing people outside, not yelling, not running, just footsteps. Slow, calm footsteps moving down the street. My mom told me to stay away from the windows, but I went to the front hall anyway and looked through the crack in the curtains. There were people walking down the middle of the street in pairs, all wearing dark clothes. No flashlights, no talking, just walking house to house. The next morning, the power was back on. The alert was gone from my phone, and when I asked people on my block about it, half of them acted like they had no idea what I was talking about. Fear in high def. My dad bought a huge new TV and kept joking that the picture was so clear it looked better than real life. A few nights later, I was downstairs alone when the screen changed by itself. It showed our living room, the same living room I was sitting in. At first, everything looked normal. Then I noticed something on the TV that wasn't in real life. A person was standing behind the couch. I turned around fast. Nothing was there. When I looked back at the screen, the person had moved. They were now standing at the end of the hallway, facing me. I couldn't make out a face, just a dark shape. Then it took another step. I ran upstairs and got my dad, but when we came back down, the TV was back to normal. He thought I was messing with him until the next night, when it happened again. This time, we were both watching. The screen showed the living room, then the hallway, then the stairs. And at the top of the stairs, on the TV, something was standing there, waiting. My dad unplugged the TV right away. The screen stayed on for another few seconds, just long enough for the thing on it to start coming down the stairs. That wraps up tonight's stories. If you want more creepy content like this, subscribe, because there's a lot more on the way. And if you have a scary story of your own, leave it in the comments for a chance to be featured in a future video. New videos drop every Friday. I'll see you in the next one.